Have you ever witnessed pure cruelty disguised as community enforcement? That's what happened when Barbara Whitfield, our HOA president, decided my daughter's disability was disrupting neighborhood aesthetics and took matters into her own hands with her golf cart and a rope. The sun hung high over Sunnydale Estates, casting a warm glow across our manicured lawns and palm-lined streets. It was a typical Florida afternoon. Humid, bright, and quiet, save for the occasional hum of a golf cart or the distant chatter of neighbors. Inside our two-story colonial, I was slicing tomatoes for lunch. The kitchen radio tuned low to a classic rock station. My daughter, Lily, was out front in the driveway, working through her physical therapy exercises. Lily is 14, with a smile that could light up a room and a determination that humbles me daily. A car accident when she was 6 left her with partial paralysis in her legs, but she's fought hard to regain what mobility she can. Her forearm crutches, bright blue and adorned with stickers from her favorite bands, leaned against the garage door. She was practicing short steps without them, her therapy journal and water bottle resting on the front step. Every wobbly stride was a victory, and I could hear her soft encouragements to herself through the open window. "You got this, Lil. One more." I was proud, but not surprised. That's just who she is. Then I heard the sharp squeal of tires. Not a car, but something smaller. A golf cart. I glanced out the window and saw Barbara Whitfield, our HOA president, pulling up in her customized cart, complete with a garish Sunnydale Estates logo plastered on the side. Barbara, in her early 60s with a perm as unyielding as her personality, clutched her ever-present clipboard like a scepter. Her pastel polo and visor screamed, "I'm in charge." And she wore that authority like a crown. She stopped at the edge of our driveway, her eyes narrowing at Lily. "Young lady," she barked, her voice cutting through the afternoon calm. "What do you think you're doing loitering out here? This is a driveway, not a playground." Lily froze, her hands gripping the air for balance. I'm doing my therapy," she stammered, her voice small but polite. "My doctor said I need to practice walking every day." Barbara scoffed, scribbling something on her clipboard. "This is an unsightly display. You're cluttering the neighborhood with all this equipment." She gestured vaguely at Lily's crutches, as if they were trash left on the curb. "Sunnydale has standards, and you're not meeting them." I felt my jaw tighten, but I stayed put, hoping Lily could handle it. She's tough, and I didn't want to undermine her by rushing out like an overprotective dad. "Not yet," Lily tried to explain, her voice steadier now. "I'm not loitering, ma'am. These are my exercises. I have to do them to get stronger." "My doctor." "Your doctor," Barbara interrupted, stepping out of the cart with a sneer. "You kids always have excuses, faking for attention. Aren't you lowering our property values with this performance?" She waved a hand dismissively, as if Lily's existence was an affront to her perfect community. "Move along, now." Lily's face flushed, but she didn't back down. "I live here. This is my house. I'm not doing anything wrong." That was the wrong thing to say to Barbara Whitfield. Her eyes flashed with fury, and before I could process what was happening, she stormed over and grabbed Lily's arm. "You need to learn to walk properly like normal people," she snapped, her voice dripping with venom. She yanked Lily toward the back of the golf cart, where a coil of rope hung from a utility hook. My heart stopped. I dropped the knife I was holding and bolted for the door, but not before I saw Barbara force Lily to grip the cart's rear railing. "Hold on," she barked, "and keep up." Then she slammed her foot on the pedal. The cart lurched forward, and Lily stumbled, her legs unable to match the pace. She cried out, her free hands scraping the pavement as she tried to stay upright. Barbara didn't slow down. "Run, girl," she shouted, her voice manic. "This is what happens to troublemakers." Lily fell, her knees hitting the asphalt hard, but Barbara kept going, dragging her now. Lily's arm twisted in Barbara's grip. The crutches lay abandoned in the driveway, their blue frames glinting in the sun. Lily's water bottle rolled into the grass, her journal pages fluttering open in the breeze. I tore out of the house, my boots pounding the pavement, screaming, "Stop, Barbara, stop." My voice echoed down the street, raw and desperate. Lily's cries pierced the air, and I could see blood streaking her knees and palms as she was pulled along, her body half limp from pain and terror. I don't remember how I closed the distance, only that I did. The world narrowed to Lily, the cot, and the woman who thought she could terrorize my daughter. Neighbors were emerging now, some with phones raised, recording, others just standing there, mouths agape. Mrs. Carter from across the street gasped, her hands clutching her gardening gloves. Mr. Patel, 2 houses down, started jogging toward us, shouting for Barbara to stop. I reached the cart just as Barbara slowed to make a turn. Her face twisted in a mix of rage and satisfaction. I grabbed the railing and planted my feet, forcing the cart to a halt. "Let her go," I roared, my voice shaking with fury. I pried Barbara's hand off Lily's arm, her nails leaving red marks on my daughter's skin. Lily collapsed into my arms, sobbing, her body trembling against me. Barbara didn't flinch. She stood, clipboard in hand, and had the audacity to say, "I was helping her exercise, Robert. You're enabling her laziness, keeping her on those crutches. She needs discipline, not coddling." I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her feel the fear she'd inflicted on my child. But Lily was my priority. I scooped her up, her blood smearing my shirt, and carried her back to the house. Her crutches were still in the driveway, one bent from where the cart had clipped it. Neighbors were murmuring now, some approaching to help, others still filming, their phones capturing Barbara's defiant stance as she climbed back into her cart and drove off, unfazed. Inside, I set Lily on the couch, her face pale, her hands shaking as she clung to me. "I'm sorry, Dad," she whispered, as if she'd done something wrong. That broke me more than anything. Seeing my daughter bloodied and terrified, something primal took over. What would you have done in that moment? Would you have called the police immediately? Confronted Barbara physically? Let me know in the comments. How would you handle someone who assaulted your disabled child? Barbara thought she could terrorize a disabled child and face no consequences. She didn't realize she'd just awakened a military strategist who specialized in neutralizing threats. The living room was quiet, save for Lily's soft sniffles as I cleaned her wounds. She sat on the couch, her legs curled under a blanket, her eyes red from crying. The rope burns on her wrist were raw, her knees and palms scraped bloody from the pavement. Every mark fueled the fire in my chest, but I kept my hands steady, dabbing antiseptic as gently as I could. My military training taught me to stay calm under pressure, and right now Lily needed that calm. "You're okay, sweetheart," I said, though the words felt hollow. She nodded, but her gaze was distant, replaying the horror. I grabbed my phone, finally off the charger, and started photographing her injuries. The red welts, the torn skin, the dirt ground into her palms. Each click of the camera was a promise to make this right. Dr. Harris, a friend from my Army days who now ran a local clinic, arrived within the hour. He examined Lily with a quiet professionalism, noting her injuries in a medical report. "She's shaken, Robert," he said, packing his bag. "Physically, she'll heal. Emotionally, give her time." I handed him Lily's torn clothes, now sealed in a plastic bag for evidence. He nodded grimly, understanding the path I was on. Lily wanted to talk, so I recorded her account on my phone. Her voice trembled as she described Barbara's rage, the sudden jolt of the golf cart, the pain of being dragged. "I kept telling her I couldn't run," she whispered, but she wouldn't listen. I saved the file and pulled my old military planning notebook from my desk drawer. Its leather cover was worn, but the pages were crisp, ready for a new mission. By evening, my inbox was buzzing. 3 neighbors had sent videos of the incident, each from a different angle. One showed Barbara's face clearly, her lips curled in a snarl as she shouted at Lily to keep up. Another captured the moment Lily fell, her cries sharp against the cart's whine. The third, from Mr. Patel's doorbell camera, showed Barbara's smug expression as she drove off. I saved them all to a secure folder on my computer, labeling each with the time and source. I I started asking questions, quietly reaching out to neighbors. Mrs. Carter, still shaken, told me Barbara had fined her last year for unsightly medical equipment when her husband needed an oxygen tank. Mr. Patel mentioned Barbara's campaign against a neighbor with epilepsy, claiming her occasional seizures were disturbing the peace. A pattern emerged. Barbara targeted anyone with disabilities or medical conditions, cloaking her cruelty in community aesthetics. Some neighbors were outraged, offering support. Others, like the Wilsons next door, urged me to let it go. Barbara controls everything, Mrs. Wilson whispered, glancing nervously at her own mailbox, stuffed with violation notices. You don't want her as an enemy. Too late for that. I called Sarah, an attorney I'd met through a veterans group who specialized in disability rights, over a secure video call. I shared the videos and Lily's medical report. Sarah's face hardened as she watched. This is assault, battery, and a clear violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, she said, her pen flying across a legal pad. The hate crime angle is strong too. Given her targeting of Lily's disability, we can go after Barbara personally and the HOA board for enabling her. She advised filing a police report immediately and promised to draft a civil suit by morning. With Sarah's guidance, I began to build a plan, my military instincts kicking in. This wasn't just about Lily. It was about dismantling Barbara's reign of terror. I outlined a multi-pronged approach in my notebook. Legal action to hold Barbara accountable, community mobilization to break her grip on Sunnydale, media pressure to expose her, and regulatory complaints to ensure systemic change. Each prong needed evidence, allies, and timing like a battlefield operation. I pulled my old contacts list from a locked drawer, scanning names from my military days. A journalist friend, Maria Torres, who'd covered housing discrimination for a local paper, was my first call. She agreed to review the videos and dig into Barbara's history with the HOA. I also reached out to a former colleague now at the Department of Housing and Urban Development, planting the seed for a federal investigation. Every move was deliberate, every piece of evidence cataloged in a growing digital file. Videos, photos, Lily's statement, Dr. Harris's report. Lily stirred on the couch, her therapy journal open in her lap. She'd written a single line, "I'm scared, but I don't want her to win." I kissed her forehead, promising her Barbara wouldn't. My daughter was the mission now, and I'd spent years learning how to neutralize threats. Barbara had no idea what was coming. Barbara expected the Andersons to cower and comply. Instead, she found herself facing a precision military operation designed to dismantle her reign of terror. The police station smelled of coffee and printer ink as I sat across from Officer Delgado, a no-nonsense cop with a buzz cut and a notepad. I handed him a USB drive with the videos, Lily's statement, and Dr. Harris's medical report. His jaw tightened as he watched the footage. Barbara's voice blaring through his laptop speakers. "Run, girl." When it ended, he leaned back, shaking his head. "This is assault and battery on a minor, no question. We'll bring her in for questioning today." I filed the report, adding copies to my evidence file, now a thick binder tabbed with color-coded sections. Sarah, my attorney, met me outside and filed for an emergency restraining order against Barbara, citing the videos as evidence of imminent threat. By noon, the judge had signed it. I tucked the order into my binder, another weapon in my arsenal. Sarah wasn't done. "We're suing Barbara personally for assault and emotional distress," she said, her voice sharp, "and the HOA board for gross negligence. They've let her run unchecked for years." She drafted complaints for both, attaching Lily's medical report and neighbor statements. I saved digital copies to my evidence folder, now synced to a secure cloud drive. Back home, I turned to the community. Mrs. Carter introduced me to Elena Ruiz, whose autistic son had been banned from the community pool after Barbara deemed his stimmying disruptive. Mr. Patel connected me with Mr. Gordon, an elderly widower fined for using a walker on the sidewalk. Barbara called it a tripping hazard. Then there was Ms. Lynn, a cancer survivor who'd received violation notices for her unsightly appearance during chemotherapy, her headscarf apparently offending Barbara's aesthetic standards. Each story fueled my resolve. I invited them to a quiet meeting at my house, where we sat around the dining table, sharing evidence. Photos of fines, threatening letters, even a recorded voicemail from Barbara berating Elena's son. We formed a coalition, agreeing to demand a special HOA meeting to expose Barbara's pattern of discrimination. Barbara, predictably, escalated. Her golf cart became a constant presence, circling our street at odd hours. Her phone raised to snap photos of our property. Violation notices piled up in my mailbox. Untrimmed hedges, unauthorized driveway activity, excessive noise from Lily's therapy sessions. Then came the bombshell. A letter from the HOA board announcing a compliance hearing to address our family's repeated violations. Barbara had convinced them to put us on trial. I added the letter to my binder, a smirk tugging at my lips. She thought she was setting a trap. She didn't realize she was handing me a stage. I moved to the next prong of my plan, external pressure. I sent the videos to Maria Torres, my journalist friend, who confirmed they were explosive. "This is front-page material," she said, already drafting a piece on Sunnydale's HOA tyrant. I emailed my contact at HUD, attaching the coalition's evidence and a detailed complaint about Barbara's ADA violations. Another email went to the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division, flagging her actions as potential hate crimes. Responses started trickling in. Acknowledgments from federal agencies. A call from Maria's editor requesting an interview. I saved every email in a dedicated folder. My phone pinging with media inquiries by day's end. Barbara's hearing was set for next week, and I knew she expected us to show up defeated, ready to beg for mercy. Instead, I was building a coalition, amassing evidence and turning her own tactics against her. She'd ruled Sunnydale through fear. But fear only works until someone fights back. I glanced at Lily, sketching in her therapy journal, her crutches propped nearby. She caught my eye and gave a small, determined nod. This was our fight and we were ready. Barbara scheduled a public humiliation for my family. She didn't realize she was actually scheduling her own downfall. Broadcast live for all to see. The morning of the HOA hearing, our house buzzed with quiet determination. I sat at the kitchen table, flipping through my evidence binder, its pages tabbed and annotated like a battle plan. Lily was upstairs with a child advocate, practicing her statement, her voice gaining strength with each run-through. Her crutches, now decorated with messages like, "Keep going," and "You are enough" from her friends, leaned against the wall. Neighbors trickled in, pinning blue ribbons to their shirts, matching the color of Lily's crutches. Elena Ruiz brought coffee. Mr. Gordon offered a firm handshake. Our coalition was small but fierce, ready to face Barbara's kangaroo court. I reviewed my strategy one last time. Present the evidence methodically, let Barbara's own actions bury her, and rally the community to act. Maria Torres had confirmed her news crew would be there, and my HUD contact hinted at an observer attending discreetly. Everything was in place. The community clubhouse was packed, standing room only, the air thick with tension and the hum of ceiling fans. Residents filled the chairs, some whispering, others glaring at the elevated table where Barbara sat, flanked by her loyal board members. Her clipboard rested in front of her, her posture rigid, a queen presiding over her court. But the room wasn't hers anymore. Media cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking. Our coalition sat in the front row, blue ribbons stuck against their clothing. Lily clutched my hand, her face pale but resolute. Barbara banged her gavel, her voice dripping with authority. "We're here to address the Anderson family's repeated violations of Sunnydale Estates covenants," she began, listing our supposed crimes: unauthorized driveway loitering, property disrepair, and non-compliance with aesthetic standards. She smirked at me, expecting submission. Before I could respond, a process server stepped forward, weaving through the crowd. "Barbara Whitfield," he announced, handing her a manila envelope, the restraining order. Her face tightened, but she waved it away, refusing to open it. "This is irrelevant," she snapped, banging her gavel again. "Proceed." I stood, my voice steady, trained from years of briefing rooms and battlefields. "My name is Robert Anderson, former Strategic Operations Officer, United States Army. I'm here to address a pattern of abuse by Barbara Whitfield, including the assault of my disabled daughter. Gasps rippled through the room. Barbara's eyes narrowed, but I didn't pause. I connected my laptop to the projector, pulling up the first video. The screen lit up with Barbara dragging Lily behind her golf cart, Lily's cries echoing through the speakers. The room fell silent, save for a few choked sobs. I followed with Dr. Harris's medical report, projected in stark detail. Rope burns, abrasions, emotional trauma. Then came testimony from the coalition, Elena's story of her son's pool ban, Mr. Gordon's fines for his walker, Ms. Lynn's harassment during chemotherapy. Each account was backed by documents, photos, and violation notices, all scanned and displayed. I closed with a slide listing Barbara's violations: assault, battery, ADA noncompliance, and pending HUD and DOJ investigations. This isn't about one incident, I said, meeting the eyes of the crowd. It's about a pattern of discrimination targeting the vulnerable. We deserve better. Barbara's composure cracked. She leapt to her feet, shouting, "This is a witch hunt. People like that girl don't belong in premium communities. They drag us down." The room erupted, cameras zooming in on her outburst. Residents shouted back, some calling her a disgrace, others demanding answers. Her board members shifted uncomfortably, one sliding his chair away. Elena stood next, her voice shaking but clear. "My son deserves to swim in our pool. Barbara banned him for being autistic." "Who's next?" Mr. Gordon followed, holding up his walker. "I paid for this home. I won't be fined for existing." The coalition stories poured out, each one a crack in Barbara's empire. A resident in the back, a retired teacher who'd stayed neutral, stood. "I move we vote to remove Barbara Whitfield as HOA president. Now." The motion was seconded instantly. Barbara pounded her gavel, screaming for order. But the crowd was done with her. Even her allies on the board hesitated, their silence deafening. The vote was called, hands shooting up across the room. The tally was overwhelming. Barbara was out. She stormed from the table, shoving past a cameraman, her clipboard clattering to the floor. The media swarmed, microphones thrust forward. But she fled to her golf cart and sped off. Lily squeezed my hand, a small smile breaking through her fear. The room buzzed with a new energy. Anger, yes, but also hope. We turned Barbara's stage into her reckoning. Barbara wanted to create a perfect community by eliminating anyone different. Instead, she created a united community that celebrated those differences. From her new cell in county jail. In the weeks following the HOA hearing, justice moved swiftly. Barbara's arrest came first. Her mugshot splashed across Maria Torres's front-page exposé. Charges piled up: assault and battery on a minor, violation of civil rights, and destruction of medical equipment. Lily's bent crutch was evidence enough. Federal investigators, tipped off by my HUD and DOJ complaints, uncovered years of documented harassment targeting disabled residents, from fines to outright intimidation. The HOA board faced a class action lawsuit, with Sarah leading the charge for our coalition. Neighbors like Elena, Mr. Gordon, and Ms. Lynn added their claims. Their stories now public record. News reports scrolled across my tablet, each headline a nail in Barbara's coffin. Lily received new crutches, upgraded and custom-fitted, donated by a medical equipment company moved by her story. She twirled them proudly, the blue frames gleaming, her confidence slowly returning. I watched her practice in the driveway, no longer flinching at the sound of a golf cart. The violation notices stopped, the mailbox now filled with supportive cards from neighbors. The community began to heal, reshaping itself in Barbara's absence. A new HOA board was elected, led by Elena, who prioritized inclusivity. They mandated ADA training for all members and formed an accessibility committee, inviting Lily as a youth advisor. She accepted, her therapy journal now filled with ideas for ramps and sensory-friendly park spaces. The board secured funding for physical upgrades, pool lifts, sidewalk ramps, and a quiet corner in the community park with tactile paths for neurodiverse kids. Lily's driveway sessions became a neighborhood ritual, with kids and adults cheering her on, some joining her stretches as a show of solidarity. Mrs. Carter even brought homemade lemonade, calling it Lily's Victory Blend. Months later, Barbara's plea deal required a public apology before she left Sunnydale for good. The clubhouse was quieter this time. No media, just our coalition and a few residents. Barbara stood at the podium, her once immaculate appearance gone. Hair limp, shoulders slumped, her arrogance replaced by defeat. She read a scripted apology, her voice flat. "I regret my actions and the harm caused." No one clapped. Lily, seated beside me, asked to speak. I hesitated, but her eyes were steady, so I nodded. She stood, crutches clicking softly, and faced Barbara. "You hurt me," she said, her voice clear. "You made me feel like I didn't belong. But I'm still here, and I hope you learn from this. Everyone deserves to feel at home." The room was silent, Barbara's face unreadable. She left without a word, her golf cart sold, her house already on the market. Lily sat down, exhaling, and I squeezed her hand, prouder than I'd ever been. Reflecting later, I realized Barbara's cruelty, meant to drive us out, had done the opposite. It united us, forging a community where differences weren't just tolerated but celebrated. Lily thrived, her laughter echoing as she raced kids on the new park paths, her crutches a badge of strength. Barbara wanted to help my daughter learn to walk properly. Instead, she taught our entire community how to stand up for what's right. If you believe in standing up against bullies and fighting for accessibility, hit that like button. Share this with anyone who's faced discrimination or HOA nightmares. Subscribe for more stories of justice served. And don't forget to ring that bell. Have you ever had to fight back against someone who abused their power? Tell me your stories in the comments below.